Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are tackling a really critical topic, one that probably should get more attention before things become urgent. Preconception nutrition. We're essentially looking at the health blueprint, what needs to be in place before pregnancy even begins. Our mission for you listening is to pull out the key physiological, nutritional, and health stuff that really optimizes our biological ability to reproduce. And this isn't just for women, it's fundamental for both partners.
Absolutely. And before we really jump in, we should probably clear up some words because honestly, they get mixed up all the time. When we talk about the biological ability to have kids, we're talking about fecundity. That's the capacity. Fertility is different. That's the actual outcome, having children. And then there's infertility, usually defined as no conception after a year of trying. But that label, it can be a bit misleading.
Misleading how?
Well, get this. Around 44% of couples told they're infertile actually end up conceiving later without any treatment.
44%. Wow. Okay, so for nearly half, it might just be timing. Or maybe subfertility.
Exactly. Subfertility is probably a better term for many. It means a reduced level, maybe taking longer to conceive, or sadly repeated losses. That's often where nutrition and lifestyle can really play a role.
Right, that context is huge. And it makes sense why preparing is, well, a national priority. If you look at the Healthy People 2030 goals, they actually set targets for this. Things like getting enough folic acid before pregnancy, achieving a healthy pre-pregnancy weight, and also reducing unintended pregnancies, which, gives people that crucial window to prepare properly.
Definitely. So to understand how we can influence things, we need to look at the underlying machinery, the hormones. It's this really complex conversation happening constantly between the brain and the reproductive organs. We don't need to memorize everything, but there are maybe 4 key players to grasp. It starts in the brain with signals like FSH and LH.
Okay, FSH and LH, what do they do?
Think of them as the main messengers. FSH stimulates the egg follicles in women and sperm production in men. LH is the trigger for ovulation in women and helps make testosterone in men.
Got it. Brain signals. And the response.
The response comes from the ovaries or testes. In women, that's mainly estrogen and progesterone. In men, it's testosterone. And the body's always checking these levels, creating this feedback loop.
Okay, let's walk through the female cycle then, the 26 to 29 days or so. How does that conversation play out?
So first half, the follicular phase.
Yeah.
FSH tells the follicles to grow. They make more estrogen. Then, bam, around day 14, a big surge of LH.
And that's ovulation.
That's the trigger, yeah. Then the second half, the luteal phase, kicks in. The leftover follicle becomes the corpus luteum.
Right, I remember that term.
And it starts making progesterone, mostly, to get the uterus ready. If no pregnancy happens, the hormone levels just drop, and the cycle starts over.
Makes sense. And for men, you said it's ongoing.
It's ongoing, yes, stimulated by FSH, LH, and testosterone. But it's still sensitive to things like stress or bad nutrition.
But if it's always happening, what's the lead time? Does diet today affect sperm tomorrow?
That's the crucial bit. Sperm maturation. The whole process from start to finish. It takes 70 to 80 days.
Wait, 70 to 80 days? Seriously?
Seriously. 2.5 to almost 3 months.
Okay, hold on. That completely reframes things for the male partner. The sperm involved today were basically built based on health and diet from, 3 months ago?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
It means you can't just clean up your act a week before trying. For men, you're looking at a solid 3-month prep window, minimum.
That's huge.
Yeah. Well,
okay, so hormones are the messengers, but what controls them? You mentioned body fat.
yeah, this is what gets really interesting. Fat cells aren't just storage, they're hormonally active. They actually produce estrogen, testosterone, leptin.
So they're like little hormone factories.
Exactly. And if you have too much or too little body fat, the levels of these hormones get skewed, and that interferes with the main fertility signals from the brain.
Okay, let's break that down. What about too much body fat? Like obesity, BMI over 30.
Right. In women, obesity often means higher estrogen and leptin. The body kind of misreads this, leading to irregular cycles, problems with ovulation. Even amenorrhea stopped periods in 30 to 47% of cases.
Nearly half again. Wow. And in men?
In men, excess fat can actually convert testosterone into estrogen. So you end up with lower active testosterone, which means, reduced sperm production and even higher rates of erectile dysfunction.
Okay, so too much is a problem. What about too little? BMI under 20.
Just as disruptive, really. Your body needs a certain amount of fat to basically say, okay, we have enough energy reserves to handle a pregnancy below that critical level.
It shuts down shop.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
In women, we call it functional hypothalamic amenorrhea, or FHA. Bit of a mouthful.
FHA. So the hypothalamus, the brain's control center, just hits pause on reproduction.
Precisely. It's a survival mechanism. If someone loses, say, 10–15% of their usual weight, the brain often interprets it as famine and shuts down the reproductive system to conserve resources.
Is that like the case study, Tessa?
Exactly like Tessa. She dropped to 107 pounds, her period stopped, hormones flatlined. Only when she regained weight, got back up to 119 pounds, did everything LH, FSH, ovulation switch back on.
And it affects men, too.
Yep. There's that famous starvation study by Keyes. Severe weight loss in men tanked their libido, sperm quality dropped, and eventually sperm production stopped altogether. Body fat levels matter, period.
Okay, moving from body composition to specific nutrients. You mentioned oxidative stress. What's that about?
Yeah, think of oxidative stress as an imbalance. You have too many of these damaging molecules called free radicals and not enough defenses. It's like cellular rust.
And that affects fertility.
Definitely. In sperm, it damages the cell membranes, making them less mobile, and can even damage the DNA inside. In women, it might interfere with the egg implanting properly in the uterus.
So what are the defenses?
Antioxidants, vitamin C, E, selenium, these are your key dietary defenders. Research often shows folks struggling with subfertility have lower levels of these. So loading up on fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, it's protective.
Makes sense. What about minerals? Any standouts?
For men, zinc is really important. It's needed for making testosterone and for sperm to mature properly. Deficiency is linked to poorer sperm quality, more abnormal shapes.
And for women?
Iron, absolutely critical. Low iron stores before pregnancy are surprisingly common, maybe 9–16% of U.S. women, and that increases the risk of problems with ovulation and also preterm delivery later on.
Got it. Zinc for men, iron for women. What about lifestyle stuff like coffee? Everyone asks about coffee.
Caffeine. You know, the studies are really mixed. There's no solid conclusion that moderate coffee or caffeine intake directly hurts your chances of conceiving.
So the advice to cut back is more cautious.
Pretty much, yeah. Caution rather than hard evidence right now. Alcohol, though, that's clear.
How so?
Especially for women, having 2 or more drinks a day significantly increases the risk of miscarriage or fetal death. The recommendation is pretty firm. Limit to 1 drink a day for women, 2 for men if you're trying, and obviously 0 once pregnancy is confirmed.
Right. And it's not just diet or habits, is it? What about environmental things?
Good point. Heavy metals are a big one.
Mm-hmm.
High lead exposure, like sometimes seen in smelting workers, can directly mess with hormone signals to the testes, lowering testosterone and sperm production.
Okay. And exercise. Usually healthy, but can it be too much?
It can, yeah.
Right.
Really intense, high-level exercise, especially if it leads to a significant energy deficit, can trigger that same hormonal shutdown we talked about FHA.
Like female athletes or bodybuilders.
Exactly. You see very high rates of amenorrhea, sometimes up to 86% in female bodybuilders. And the big worry there, beyond fertility, is the lack of estrogen increasing their risk for low bone density and osteoporosis down the line.
Okay, this timing aspect seems crucial. You mentioned the periconceptional period. Let's define that again.
Right. The periconceptional period, it's basically the window around conception, maybe up to 3 months before and the first 3 months after.
And a lot of that happens before someone even knows they're pregnant.
Exactly. That's why it's so critical. And the classic example here is folate.
Folate and neural tube defects, right?
Precisely. Not getting enough folate really early on, like week 3 or 4 of pregnancy, is linked to about half of all neural tube defects, like spina bifida.
But didn't fortification help with that?
Massively. When the FDA mandated adding folic acid, that's the synthetic, easily absorbed form to refined grains back in '98, NTD rates dropped significantly. Huge public health win.
But I remember reading about a gene, MTHFR. Doesn't that affect some people?
Yes, good point. Some people have a variation in the MTHFR gene, which makes it harder for their body to process folate effectively. They actually need more. This is seen more often in some groups, like Latinx women, partly because traditional diets might rely less on fortified grains.
So what's the recommendation then?
The standard advice for all women who could become pregnant is 400 micrograms of folic acid daily, from supplements or fortified foods, on top of regular folate from their diet. Start before you start trying.
And iron timing? Same idea. Better to start early.
Definitely. Building up iron stores takes time. It's just way easier and more effective to do it before getting pregnant. Women who boost their iron intake a couple of months prior generally have much better iron levels by the time they hit 15 weeks gestation compared to those who start later.
Are there other big nutrient risks in that early window?
Yes, a couple of key ones. Too much vitamin A, specifically the retinol form, not beta-carotene from plants, can increase the risk of facial and heart defects in the baby.
Okay, so careful with vitamin A supplements.
Right. And also, uncontrolled blood sugar, like in diabetes that's not well managed, is a major risk factor for fetal malformations.
And you mentioned something about DNA methylation.
Yeah, this leads into a really fascinating area called metabolic programming. The idea is that the nutritional environment during that periconceptional window can actually tweak how the embryo's genes function long term.
It changes how genes are expressed.
Exactly. It doesn't change the DNA sequence itself, but things like low energy intake or maybe too much vitamin A can add or remove these little chemical tags. That's methylation, which influences the risk of chronic diseases like diabetes or heart disease decades later.
Wow. So today's diet is literally helping write the instruction manual for future health.
That's a great way to put it.
Okay, that is profound. So let's bring it back to everyday life. What's the practical takeaway? What should the diet actually look like?
Well, honestly, the overall goal isn't revolutionary. It's about a healthy, balanced dietary pattern. Lots of nutrient-dense foods, fish, poultry, whole grains, vegetables, fruits.
Like the MyPlate guidelines.
Exactly. MyPlate.gov is a really good visual guide.
Yeah.
It emphasizes balance across the food groups. Of course, the amount you need varies based on, age, sex, activity level. An active guy might need 2,800 calories. An active woman maybe 2,200, so their plates look similar, but the portion sizes adjust.
Makes sense. What about contraceptives? Many women try to conceive right after stopping birth control. Does the type matter?
It can. Combination pills, the ones with estrogen and progestin, generally have fewer side effects than older types and don't seem to cause weight gain on their own. They might slightly change blood lipids or glucose, but usually not dramatically.
And the progestin-only ones, like the shot, Depo-Provera?
Ah, yeah. Those are linked pretty clearly with weight gain for many users, an average of about 10 pounds over 5 years, mostly fat storage. That's definitely something to be aware of. And in teens, there's some concern it might affect bone density accrual.
Good to know. Are there any public health programs that have successfully tackled preconception health?
Yeah, actually. Even programs not specifically targeting preconception, like WIC here in the U.S., show benefits. Women who stayed on WIC between pregnancies tended to have better iron status, and their next baby had a higher birth weight.
That's great. Any international examples?
Indonesia had a really interesting program. They started requiring couples applying for a marriage license to get advice on iron and folate. It nearly cut iron deficiency rates in half among that group. Similar interventions can work.
So for professionals listening, how do they structure this advice? Is there a standard process?
Yes, absolutely. Dietitians and other nutrition professionals use something called the Nutrition Care Process, or NCP. It's a standardized system developed by the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics.
NCP.
It just provides a consistent framework for providing nutrition services, ensures nothing gets missed.
So what does it involve?
It's basically 4 steps. First, nutrition assessment. That's gathering all the info, diet history, weight, height, BMI, medical background, labs, everything.
Okay, gather the data. Step 2.
Nutrition diagnosis. This isn't a medical diagnosis, but a specific nutrition problem we can treat, like excessive energy intake or maybe inadequate folate intake or underweight. You identify the core nutrition issue.
Got it. Diagnose the nutrition problem, then.
Step 3 is nutrition intervention. This is the action plan. What are we going to do about it? Could be education, counseling, maybe recommending specific foods or supplements. It's tailored to the diagnosis.
And the last step.
Nutrition monitoring and evaluation. Did the intervention work? We track progress, measure outcomes, maybe weight change, maybe improve lab values, maybe reported dietary changes, and adjust the plan as needed. It's a cycle.
Can you give a quick example?
Sure. Think about case study 2.2. The guy, Michael, 29 years old, 260 pounds, low sperm count. Assessment finds high calorie intake, not much activity. Diagnosis might be obesity related to excessive energy intake. Intervention focuses on counseling for healthier eating, maybe meal planning, and setting activity goals. Monitoring would track his weight, maybe repeat sperm analysis later.
That makes it very clear. Okay, we've covered a lot of ground on the blueprint for conception. Let's quickly recap the maybe 3 biggest takeaways for everyone listening. 1, that delicate hormone balance, it's super sensitive to body fat. Too little or too much can really disrupt fertility for both men and women.
Absolutely key.
2, folate and iron. You really need to think about getting enough before you even start trying. It minimizes risks later on.
Non-negotiable, really.
And 3, that 70-80-day sperm cycle means men need a prep time too, at least 3 months. You can't ignore that lead time.
Crucial point. So maybe a final thought to leave you with, tying back to that idea of metabolic programming. Given that what you eat and your overall health around the time of conception can literally adjust the settings for your child's lifelong health, think about this. What small, subtle change could you make today? Whether it's for yourself someday or maybe to share with someone you care about? What change could help ensure the best possible metabolic blueprint gets passed on?
Something powerful to consider. A huge thank you for breaking all that down, and a warm thank you from the Deep Dive team. We'll catch you next time.